What is the creepiest / cringiest thing someone has done to prove their love to you? We were 14, I think. He cut his arm with his compass in a quiet part of class and then bled on a page of my notebook. Then said, "My life and blood are yours, Mike." We hardly knew each other. A woman once wrote a play about me and had it performed at university second year. There was an entire drama department involved, and it was performed in front of hundreds of people. To say it was awkward is an understatement. Girlfriend stole my favorite book, put lipstick kisses and oil all over the maps and prologue. I had that book for years. Was certainly the reason we broke up. That and her death threats. I think I was the creep in this situation. I saw a post on Pinterest that was really cute, and I wanted to replicate. A husband had attached photos on strings of him and his wife to balloons and let them dangle around the bed on the night of their anniversary. It looked very rustic and romantic. My replication wasn't. Hundreds of photos of me and my partner on strings, taped to the ceiling, cold and find a helium canister at short notice, and dangling over the dining table where I had cooked us a meal. I lit some candles, turned out the lights, and waited for her to come home from uni. It was only when she walked in and asked if I was going to kill her did I realize how ducking creepy the setup looked. I broke up with someone after he previously wouldn't accept the breakup, and he left a rose on my doorstep with a torn piece out of the Crow graphic novel that said "My Valentine has hollow eyes." Told him I wouldn't date him, so he rode his bike into the front of my truck while I was going like 5 miles per hour in a parking lot, dramatically threw himself over my hood, and acted like he was dying so people would call 911. He thought he could guilt me into dating him. It didn't work. She proposed to me 3 months in and I, swept up in how awesome and exciting everything had been thus far, said yes. With my brain muscles still functioning at limited capacity I did, however, insist that we take our time and not rush the actual marriage. 4 months in I learned she was an alcoholic. 5 months in I learned she'd been molested as a child and started supportively attending therapy sessions with her. 6 months in she stole and consumed a bunch of my dog's pain pills. 5 months in she started criticizing the close relationship I have with my half-sister and widowed mother. 8 months in she accused me of rape and emotional abuse. 9 months in she illegally purchased us a prematurely weaned puppy. 7 months in standard cognitive functions re-engaged, and I became aware that knowing someone deserves a better life doesn't mean you should martyr your own well-being to provide it for them. Edit. Since a couple people asked about the dog, her dad took him. He's a terrible father, but an excellent dog owner. The pup was a purebred chocolate lab, and last I heard he was leaving for a $5K trip to an elite hunting school. Had this drunken psycho girl come to my old apartment building to try and serenade me. She had forgotten what apartment I was in and ended up going to each apartment and playing outside their doors until someone finally called the cops. Well, I just went on a date where a guy bought me a gift basket after meeting me once for an hour with a mug in it that said "I love you" a lot. He proceeded to talk about us having sex through the whole dinner and said, "Yeah, really doing it for me right now." He jokingly said I could check and see if he had a boner under the table. There was more awkward AF stuff, but definitely not a second date. I broke up with him after a long on again off again relationship. He still continued to call me every day and leave messages. Many months later I moved on and got into a serious relationship with someone else and was happy. One early morning, I was at work but away from my desk. One of the IT guys found me and gave me my phone saying it was ringing non-stop. It was the ex. As I went to open my phone he was calling me. I picked up only for him to tell me that I gave him an STD and his grandmother is in the background saying "Yeah, you gave him something," but I can hear him in the background saying "Right grandma, she gave me in standard." I have never in my life had an STD and told him we haven't been together for almost a year and knew it wasn't me. You know what he said? "It's okay, the doctor said it's curable, come to dinner with me tonight." I hung up, changed my number, made an appointment to prove I do not have anything, and called my boyfriend to let him know what JST happened. Doctor said I was clean and I should consider a restraining order, as this was not the first time he heard of a situation like this to keep a girlfriend/boyfriend. A 42-year-old woman tried to get me in the sack as proof of how much she loved me when I told her she was just a friend. I was 15. Edit. To the 12-year-olds asking if she was hot, go outside and maybe interact with some people your own age, preferably of whichever gender you have the hots for. The point isn't if she was hot. If she was good looking or not does not change the fact that a 42-year-old was trying to have sex with a 15-year-old. Reverse their genders and you have a travesty. But because the older one was a woman, people suddenly only care if a 15-year-old boy almost got with a hottie. I broke up with my boyfriend of 3 years in high school. His older sister drove to my house and asked me to sit in her car and talk about it. She was cool, so I did. After trying to persuade me to take him back and me strongly refusing, she tells me she has something for me in the trunk. We get out, go back and open the trunk, and he is in the trunk, crying and begging me to get back with him. I refused. Update: I broke up with him because he cheated on me. It was right before senior prom and I already had another date who is now my husband, so that turned out well. I was in college mid-80s. Dated this girl for maybe a week, we might have made out once, then called it off. Let's call her certain element. Sometime later, I got really drunk after a rugby match and kind of blacked out. I woke up in the morning naked in my bed, with certain element kneeling over me trying to get it on with my morning wood. I freaked, and she cried incoherently, apologized and left. She must have been avoiding me after that, because I didn't see her around for a while. One evening a few weeks later, I got back to my dorm room after a party or something, and see my roomie sitting on my bed with his arm around an apparently naked woman. So I said, sorry, man, and went to hang out in the lounge until they got sorted out. He came in like 10 minutes later and was like, dude, why the duck did you leave me in there with her? Turns out he went to bed early and woke up to the sound of someone retching into the waster basket. It was certain element who had gotten really drunk and sneaked naked into my bed to lie in wait for me. She started to feel sick and woke up my roomie to help her. We went back to the room and she had disappeared. I saw her the next day and gave her hell for having the nerve to do such a stunt, especially after practically raping me previously. I didn't think of it that way then, but let's be real. But really let her have it for inflicting her ducked upness on my roomie. She quit school a few days later. I feel bad that she quit school, but I can't take too much responsibility for how it all turned out. She was kind of nuts. My ex and I used to share an apartment. When we split up, I broke up with him after he pulled some shit, but that's another story. He moved in with his parents and I kept the place. He returned his key to me. I walked past the front door one day and noticed an envelope had been slid under the door at some point while I was home. The only thing written on it was my first name. I opened it. There was a very messy, clearly tear-stained letter wishing me a happy birthday and telling me how much I was missed. There were about 10 scratch-off lottery tickets for my birthday. Thing is, he was 2 weeks off on my birthday and had partially scratched off a few of the tickets. I know some of these stories are much worse, but it weirded me out. This is a story about me. So I went to college and was originally a writing major, but was never really invested in the degree. I had a lot of emotional issues in college, mostly with feeling worthless, and had a really hard time connecting with people. My second year, I met this guy and became really enthralled with him for some reason. I decided to switch majors so I could see him more to biology. I would have pretty much the same classes with him for the rest of my time in college, but would barely say more than a few words to him. To say the least, nothing came of it, and I felt like the shittiest, craziest person ever. Plot twist. Turns out, I'm really good at the sciences, won a few grants, and got a really great job now after college. My confidence grew, and it became easier for me to meet and understand appropriate relationships/boundaries. Second plot twist. The guy that I originally became obsessed with started working at my job. I actually avoided him because I was really embarrassed thinking about how I switched my major for this guy I barely knew. But one night, all of our co-workers went out for dinner and we got to talking and he invited me out on a date. Fast forward, we are getting married in 4 months. Yes, he does know about what I did, and he feels sympathetic for me, and doesn't judge me at all for it like I thought he would.
N.
After hanging out with him twice, he told me he said my skin was so soft that he wanted to wear it. He told me he wrote to his grandmother about how I was the one. When I stopped answering his calls, he sent me a Facebook message saying I changed his life, how he was planning to shoot up a mall before he met me. He also advised my now husband to kill himself. Always follow your gut. If someone seems crazy, don't hang out with them just to be nice. In middle school, a girl who I had never spoken to wrote me a poem and stuck it in my locker. I'm older now. If someone were to do this to me today, I'd be flattered. My emotionally wild off immature middle school self thought this was creepy and stalkerish, and I hurt the feelings of a shy, socially awkward middle school girl who didn't deserve it. So and I live in Florida. An ex of his back in Pennsylvania discovers we are married and loses her sheet. She moves to FL and gets a house in the same neighborhood. She then shows up at our workplace almost every day for about a week. She leaves gifts on and around his car. We're talking ducking weird sheet y'all, including dirty panties and a latex animal face mask like something y'all'd wear on Holo. She harassed employees for information about us at the place so and I worked. Eventually she was banned from the building. All of this is in addition to hundreds of texts, phone calls, voicemails all begging him to come back. Every time so blocked her number, she got a new number. I think one of the last things we heard from her was that she met someone and was moving on. We've since relocated for work and laugh about it all now, but holy shit, it was scary dealing with that level of psycho. I was a 17-year-old intern at a residential program for kids. I had campus work duty one day with one of my older co-workers. We were assigned to clear some trails and were alone in the woods with a bunch of sharp tools and a chainsaw. He took that opportunity to tell me he liked to make his ex-girlfriend bleed.